Fantastic. Hope everyone's Thursday is going well after the New Year's, and everyone's getting ready to kick off the year with all sorts of exciting initiatives and a good rollout. And we'll formally start at 12:02, so just a couple of seconds here as everyone cycles in. All right. And here we go. Just to note, we are recording this session, and we're happy to provide the recorded session to the attendees afterwards in case you need to step out at any point in time in the presentation. And certainly we're available to answer any questions during the session or afterwards as needed. So just as a brief overview for where we're going to be kind of reviewing today, we're just going to give quick intros of myself as well as the Optimum team. And major agenda for this session. Then we're going to be looking at some scenarios around document and content creation with Smartsheet and some of your enterprise tools, as well as the AI data extraction. And then the last half of the session is going to be open forum Q&A, where y'all can ask questions for our team around any of the scenarios that we presented today, any of the technologies that we kind of mentioned, and then we'll kind of review those questions and respond accordingly. We've got a large number of attendees within this session, so we may not be able to hit every question and answer on the live session, but we will certainly reach out with answers afterwards in email or look to coordinate a period for everyone else. So that's what we have today. Really excited to dive in. First and foremost, my name is Chris Mondo. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering at Optimum. My role is to construct solutions within your Smartsheet and your enterprise tools and components. I've been working inside the Smartsheet platform for more than 15 years. So I've seen a fair bit. That doesn't mean I've seen everything. So excited to kind of see what scenarios you might have and where we can kind of construct a solution within your tools. Now, Optimum, the company that I work with, is a Smartsheet Platinum partner as well as a consulting company. So we work with the expanded tech systems that you might be leveraging within your own organization that we can kind of just bring some insights and education to make you aware of what tools are available to you to kind of expand upon your business tools and solutions. So without further ado, the big topic for this session is advancing your Smartsheet solutions with AI and additional automation. In this kind of segment, you may notice within your own organizations that you might have fragmented tools and data silos. These are going to be things like getting data inside of Smartsheet. You may also have mailboxes that you're trying to monitor that you need to get information out of, put into these sheets for reporting and dashboard kind of notes. Maybe you're tying into your accounting financial system records or your sales platforms, or maybe there's another project or collaborative work tool that you're looking to leverage to pull into. Having these different tool sets makes it difficult to get the information from a single source of truth, or there's redundant and duplicate data entry that may result in less accurate information. What we're going to kind of review today is some ways that you can tie these systems together, either with native connections that just need to be configured, or do an API integration, or kind of model into these central dashboards to bring a more cohesive view to your operations. In that same line with these additional techs, you may find that there's underutilized features or tools that you're not aware of that are available. A lot of organizations that we work with have access to a lot of advanced tools such as AI or hyperautomation that can really enhance the processes that you just need to have a toggle switched over to on or get kind of credits allocated for you to use these things. A lot of things that we see around here are kind of integration or work integration tools or artificial intelligence or machine learning as part of your broader set and data to access within. And we'll look at a couple of those scenarios with our demos today. And then the last one is more a conceptual, but in reality kind of happens on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not. And that's identifying and optimizing a manual process as part of a digital workflow. So some very common scenarios that we see is looking at an approval process from an email or extracting maybe payroll information or an invoice or a shipping order that you're getting in a PDF format that you need to digitize or structure in. So then you can automate that further. So that's kind of the marriage of the physical kind of tools into, or the physical processes into the digital tools to make it more effective. Some of the text that I've got below here may be softwares or applications that you're using. Today, we're focusing in with Smartsheet and kind of the Microsoft ecosystem, which most organizations have access to, but it's not bound to those. So if you're using ERP tools like SAP or Dynamics 365 or larger data segments like Databricks or Snowflake, these are other elements that you can incorporate further. Before I hop into the demo, just as a quick segment, if you have any questions for our team during the presentation, in the latter half, we will be answering those live. But in the top of the Teams banner, there's a Q&A segment. You can ask your questions there. Our team will be reviewing them and then publishing them for answering in the latter segment. So feel free to load them up as we're reviewing some of this content. And then we'll be opening them up for full dialogue at the tail end of the session. So without further ado, we're going to start moving into some of these demos and these scenarios. So one element that you might be encountering or looking to address are things like content creation. And what I mean by content creation could be generating PDF documents where maybe you're looking to create a business case summary, or maybe it's a product offering from your data in Smartsheet. And Smartsheet has a function right now that allows you to create fillable PDFs, but it's a little limited. And so we'll walk through this scenario to show you how much more you can do by marrying Smartsheet as your kind of data work automation platform with your existing Microsoft tech to build that out. Other scenarios that we see folks have kind of put in development are email customizations, where in Smartsheet, for example, you may want to send an automation to a user based on a due date that's passed, but you're limited to the format that Smartsheet allows you to create this message and send out, the formatting, the recipients, if you want to add in additional content like restricted files or different media, or change the color or font size of those messages. Can't do natively, but if you're pairing Smartsheet plus the Microsoft stack, you can kind of build out those email formats. So you can create these beautiful visualizations, custom rules, and links in, based on Smartsheet data to kind of build that structure. A couple other scenarios we've seen are things like folder structure creation. We see this a lot within project management, but it's not limited to project management. A scenario here may be when you're creating a project and managing it inside of Smartsheet, you may need to also have a folder template on SharePoint, or maybe it's in Box that has a series of folders with other templates that you're storing in for maybe contract review or data management within that you still need to maintain. With a scenario like this, you can create a project inside Smartsheet or create a row that will run an automation, and it will create and customize the name of that project folder in SharePoint and kind of sync those links in so you have a unified project experience. So you're creating Smartsheet assets, and we're also automatically creating Microsoft assets. So you have kind of the best of both worlds within tool sets. Kind of going along that theme of creating, additional content is going to be, PowerPoint slides. Smartsheet dashboards are a great way to kind of view real-time information. You can certainly publish those with external stakeholders. Sometimes you might have users who are, stuck in the way that they always want to see it and want to see a PowerPoint slide deck for a kind of item. We can kind of dynamically create these slide decks in PowerPoint based on Smartsheet information. So any data that's inside of a cell or in a row can create a customized deck, both in the document name as well as the content per slide to map in to create these, different types of presentations for your users that you could send to executives or weekly summaries and send out. just because we got a quick question on this with Google Drive or Box for these items. Short answer, yes, it can be created in any folder structure or system that comes out. So again, it's not bound to Smartsheet and Microsoft. These can be applied to additional tools or technologies throughout. So Sajal, thanks for the question. And we'll kind of go through a couple of those elements later on. I know one hot topic that you might be encountering right now is e-signatures. So Smartsheet again has a native integration with DocuSign where you can create a document and then send that for e-signature routing with DocuSign and Smartsheet, and that's native to the application, but that's explicit to DocuSign, right? Sometimes you may have additional sign tools like PandaDoc or Adobe Sign or any others that your organization is using with a marriage between Smartsheet and an automation engine in between, you can kind of set up that similar workflow where you're creating an alternative signature tool to send out, but still send that message out, receive signature statuses, updates, and write that back into the sheet to kind of manage your format. And lastly, kind of an element within the marketing realm, and this kind of touches several of these categories we talked before. You may be able to create promotional flyers, whether you're doing elements inside of Adobe Creative Suites, or if you're doing kind of web page development, we can kind of create your Smartsheet information for a campaign, build out that assets to create. We can create social posts with the information in there. Smartsheet has an embedded AI that was on a trial, at least for the New Year's, that you could use to say, what's the name of my my session? Who's my audience? Create a Twitter post that I want to post out. Well, Smartsheet can generate that content or that dialogue, and then we can use the advanced integration to take that record in Smartsheet and to automatically create a social media post, if that's on X or Twitter, whatever your preference of calling that one is, or a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post for those events. Again, it's taking data that you're managing from your Smartsheet solution and reaching out to these other business applications through the automation and AI elements. One of the cool things about this, again, is that the content creation can span additional text, which I've alluded to. So it doesn't have to be just Smartsheet only or Smartsheet and Microsoft. We talked about, your sales tools, your CRM tools, your marketing tools. The kind of common denominator here to look for is if an application has an API that allows you to tie in, or some of those softwares have an integrations or applications page. That's a great place to look to see if there's a native function available that you basically plug and play into to create those components. So we have a quick question from Tracy. Is there automation able to create and automatically email a PDF or PowerPoint? Short answer, yes, there is. That's something where in a scenario we're creating a row in Smartsheet, check a box to trigger that out. We'll take the data from that to create an email and or even create a PDF and embed that PDF that we just made and send it in the email to distribute. So that just needs to be configured. So we can do multiple steps within one workflow to go. The big thing is it's Smartsheet Plus, right? So it's Smartsheet Plus, Power Automate or Zapier as kind of your integration tools. And those are likely texts that your organization may already have, and you just might need access to it. And that's something that we'll kind of showcase here in just a second. So I'm going to switch over from the slide deck briefly and go over to the first scenario, which is the PDF generation. So we can take a peek at what that looks like. So bear with me. So we get this loaded up. All right. So on this page, I have a basic Smartsheet sheet where I am kind of logging purchase orders. And the purpose of this is I want to create a formatted PDF from data inside of my Smartsheet sheet. So maybe I'm creating a PO ID, I'm assigning the PO date, I've got kind of the name, maybe instructions, the companies that I'm kind of sending this content out to, their contact information. things like line item details, the number of items in there, purchase rates, taxes, etc. So again, this is a purchase order, but this could be for maybe, let's say, in IT, you're creating an asset for employees, or you're doing a bill of lading that you want to create from items within your set. In a Smartsheet document automation, what you will see in here is kind of the field mappings for these tools. So let me just edit this workflow. And in this case, I'm saying when I'm creating a template inside of this, I am going to generate a purchase order. And we'll go into the builder here just so you can see what that looks like from Smartsheet's side. So Smartsheet's PDF generation requires you to create a fillable PDF. And your organization may have PDF tools. You may have like Adobe's PDF editor or Bluebeam, where you can create a Word document and then convert that to a fillable PDF form. Fillable PDFs give you these fixed buckets, right, where you can kind of add and map these fields, which are the columns in Smartsheet, into these blocks. And this can be a good tool to kind of create that content. But what you might find is that the formatting gets a little quirky, where the text will overrun, or you can't do line item details where there's an item, a quantity, a rate, and the extended application. This is where you can start to look at converting this into maybe a Power Automate workflow. We're still taking the data from Smartsheet, but we can really customize what that looks like in the view. So that's native functionality. But when we run this through a Power Automate flow, we're going to show you a side-by-side what that document looks like from Smartsheet, which is this guy right here. So as you can see, my text is really small in on the comments for special instructions. I get some kind of weird formats with the email. The text sizes are kind of all over the place. It's difficult to manage that object. But if I'm running this through a Power Automate, I can just check this box on my Generate PO. What this is doing is sending the trigger event from Smartsheet through my Power Automate workflow, which is reading all of the row data in here. And it's looking at a templatized Word document that I have stored on SharePoint or OneDrive, and it's taking and mapping those in a similar exercise to what Smartsheet does. And it will process and create a fully formatted document in full. This workflow can run real time, which effectively means within a couple of minutes. You can make it faster, you can make it longer if you want to do batch updates. So we should see this within a few seconds kind of run an update, but I'm going to actually jump to a previous version just to show you what a completed document looks like for time's sake here. But the difference is, again, I have items, columns, descriptions, etc. So you can see a more granular approach for those notes. You'll see my emails are being wrapped and formatted. So these text boxes, as opposed to being just a fixed size, are dynamic in scale. So if I have a really long comments or special instruction, that will grow and expand as I need. In similar case to maybe if I'm adding tables or line items, if you're using it in Smartsheet, you have to cram everything in that one space. You only have a one-page document really that you can map using an integration from Smartsheet and Microsoft. You can have a dynamic table, which will expand in size the longer that you have. So if I have 1,000 line items, it'll automatically add in all 1,000 and keep the document formatted for an easier review or presentation. So we'll pop the hood a little bit just to show you what that flow looks like on the back side. And then we're going to go back to the slide deck and look at some of the alternative cases here. So while this loads up, so this is Power Automate. Again, this is part of the Microsoft Power Platform. A vast majority of organizations use Microsoft. If you don't have Microsoft Power Automate, you may have things like Zapier or Automate.io, any kind of the automation tool. This will allow you to connect to Smartsheet and customize or to configure additional workflows within. So in this case, I'm just running this on a recurrence workflow. So every time a new row gets checked off, that's basically triggering it to get information from my Smartsheet sheet And then for every row that I identify, this is where I'm pulling in the purchase order date, the PO, to then create a, there's quite a few steps in this one because I want a lot of things, but I'm filling out that Word template, creating that file, converting to a PDF, and then attaching it back to that row. So there was a previous question if we can create that content and then send it to an email. If I wanted to attach this to an email, I would just add an additional step at the bottom of this flow to then create an email and upload the file that was created within here. So you can't do this in Smartsheet, but we're taking Smartsheet data to then kind of fully flesh out the rest of this flow. I'll take a brief pause. I think there's been a couple more questions that have popped up, which we'll probably get to in a second. Is there a Smartsheet automation workflow and creation of GPT that can train on Smartsheet capabilities best practices? Yes, there are some components. You can certainly use GPT. They have an API integration to kind of learn what these are to create and develop. Microsoft has Copilot. Amazon has a couple of engines that you can kind of work in from there to run with. Another popular question is the automation available to create and automatically email, PowerPoint, PDF. I think we just addressed that within this guy. Another user is asking about using native functionality within document generation in Smartsheet, but for new project to spin up as a PDF template. So for this question, if you're using something like Control Center, where it's provisioning a project template set that you want to create a project summary or project brief, if you're using the native Smartsheet generation, that setup has to be done every single time. So it's a great tool, but you have to kind of configure it over and over again for every setup. If you're using a workflow, an automation workflow like Power Automate, that's global and it's a one-time setup and it will permanently run. So if you're using Control Center, which provisions a core template set, this can automatically run and always create these documents to lessen the administrative burden that you might have for your work. So it's a really good tool to kind of increase the scale of any of your advanced automations. I'll take a pause at the questions for now because I know we're coming up on the halfway mark, at least within this session. And we'll switch over to the AI kind of content parsing to kind of bolster this out. So bear with me as I switch gears again. And while that's loading up, there was a question from Christine Seaton asking about if we create a document, can it be kind of modified after it's been created? The answer to that is yes, absolutely. So it can be created one time if you'd like, but if data in your sheet changes and you need to update that information again, the automation can be run to configure it to always live process that as needed. So you've got a real-time document that's being edited from there. So great question. All right, AI data extraction. Personally, this is one of my favorite applications. I can't stand take something from an email that already has data in and pulling it into kind of a structured sheet. And that's one of the most common scenarios that we see with AI kind of data extraction. In the scenario that we're going to show is going to be invoice processing, where you may have a PDF, a Word document, a picture, a hand ticket that has information that you need to take from that file and put it into the sheet to monitor a report or create additional alerts and automations if an invoice is past due or balance is remaining. We can do that with Smartsheet Plus, an AI engine that's reading that content for you. Other applications that you might apply this same kind of tech to is things like processing medical documents. Maybe you're running a study or you have like a grant application where you're trying to see the performance or patient transaction details from these files. Again, we can read that content and pull it into Smartsheet. So we're taking a separate kind of asset and converting it into something that you can add in automation from Smartsheet or those alerts or kind of pull into a report and dashboard to review. Same case for legal documents. If you're looking at clause terms or specific dates or contacts, contract information, you can extract that in. Things like expenses. So if you've got users that are in the field or a sales team that's going out on site making purchases, or if you work in the receiving department and you're trying to track these bill of ladings or the delivery tickets, How many times have you kind of gone out and there's a giant stack of paperwork that's just sitting in a folder that then has to get walked up to accounts payable? They take that, hand key that information into an Excel spreadsheet, maybe even then in Smartsheet if you're more advanced. And from there, with an AI portion, you can literally scan that document or take a picture of it from your phone and then run it through the AI extraction to pull that information out from a physical format and then put it into the structured data for you to automate that next step. Again, there's several applications you can use this for. Educational institutions, you can use for transcripts or certification records. For teachers that don't want to grade processes, you could kind of even view handwritten items and come up and log those results into a sheet like this to do auto grading for certifications even. HR, lots of applications where a lot of the information comes over in a PDF format or larger document that we can extract that content from here. Now, a lot of these scenarios have been more text-based, whether it's a PDF or it's something written in Word, but AI or the application of AI can expand beyond just text. So we can do things like even process images or videos. So on the marketing side of things, you can look at taking an image from maybe a customer's brand or flyer, automatically extract the primary colors and the color codes, or a theme from an image if you're looking to create an additional media feed within that. So it can give you context from items within here. And then maybe on the latter side, if you're working in construction or manufacturing or any kind of safety related processes, or even in the maintenance realm, if you're walking through and identify there's an issue on a job site, you can take a picture with that. Maybe it's uploaded in a Smartsheet mobile form. But when we see that image, we can process that with AI to identify hazards or maintenance issues just by training that content. So instead of having a technician answer 20 questions about one of those images, or the issues on site, we can extract some of that information from the image to then put into a log like this, where you can again add in some automations from the Smartsheet side of things to build out. So a really great application, AI and text and image kind of processing. We are going to again pop the hood a little bit and show what this looks like to extract information from a PDF and log it in for our invoices. So switching gears again, and then we'll open it up for the broad Q&As. What I have here is a lightweight invoice log. So kind of the opposite scenario, as opposed to creating a document from structured data, I'm trying to extract information from a file and putting into my sheet to format. So you may see things. In this case, I'm attaching a PDF straight into my row. When my computer wakes up from here, bear with me 1 second, we'll refresh. Want it to be a webinar with at least one little glyph. But when I'm adding an attachment to my row, that's essentially giving me the information to extract. So this is probably one of the cleaner invoices that we've had, but you may not have invoice templates that are in this layout. You might have invoices from multiple vendors that are charging you. But things that I, in my workflow, identify are the billing contacts, maybe the shipping contacts, things like the invoice number, the invoice date, maybe a summary of the line items, the total cost, the taxes, etc. So again, if I'm pulling this from my email, I would have to download this file, attach it to a row inside Smartsheet, and then have this file still open and then hand key this information in or copy paste from that PDF into my row in Smartsheet. So what I'm doing in here is I've uploaded that attachment, and I'm just going to check the box to process this. You can automate it if you'd like, where it's recognizing whenever attachments are uploaded. That will run the flow. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I might get lucky and we'll catch this live. This should process within a few seconds. You'll see that lovely blue system updated within here, but it's going to be pulling in that information from a PDF and then writing it into each one of my specific fields. Now, in this scenario, again, I'm going to talk about this as processing. I uploaded that attachment to the row, but I could very easily change the injection point or the trigger point for this workflow to be maybe I'm monitoring a mailbox. So as soon as that an email shows into a shared mailbox or in my mailbox that's grouped out, I can read that email, extract that file, and then read that file with an AI, and then parse that information and put it into my sheet. So now that's a fully automated process, right? I don't even have to have someone look at that mailbox and put that content in before it comes in and extracts. And so the value there may be for sensitive items, whether it's billing, legal, or compliance, safety-related items, contract items. If a user, here we go, see, that just updated the information from my sheet for me. If a user is out of the office or away from the desk or on vacation, that might be critical to their business process, right? And so if that information doesn't get extracted and put into the sheet, that may have compounding effects within your operations if you're missing dates because you're delayed within that. So as we saw, that flow took only about 30 seconds to run. You can make it run faster. You can make it run at the end of the day and run from there. So that's the sheet, and that's the process for injecting that information. Again, we're going to dive in on the back end to kind of show you a little bit what that flow looks like within the semblance. So similar to the Power Automate before, it's going to be running off of what's that trigger event. In my case, again, it's checking that box to kind of monitor from there. And then I'm running a couple additional flows to get those attachments, which then I process through Power Automate to then model that flow within. So it gives you the ability to, again, read the information, extract that data from the documents. When I'm extracting this information with the AI builder, at least, that's where I'm searching for things like the invoice number, the invoice date, and then write that back into my sheet. So the benefit with this is the AI builder, at least within Copilot or within the Microsoft stack, is smart, and it allows you to identify different types of documents. So in my scenario, I only showed one PDF, but it is smart enough that you can train the engine to look at several different varieties. So if you have 100 vendors, it will start to identify typical invoices from those vendors and give you the ability to filter out segments or kind of add in additional classification. So it gets smarter the more data you feed to it. So maybe an initial flug, you might have to kind of train it a little bit. It's the tricycle with little trainers on the side. But after you have enough documents processed within, it should run more automated. You can always upload that to give an initial feed. But the applications of the AI Builder expand, again, far beyond just information out within these segments here. The quick pause, because we got a couple of questions within this that popped up. One from Vince asking about Power Automate to trigger the AI extract. Yeah, for these scenarios, again, I've been focusing in with the Microsoft tech stack and Smartsheet. That's the story better together. There are other automation engines that you could certainly look at doing, like Zapier or Automate.io or any other iPaaS kind of application. You may need to kind of plug in different models from there, but these are ones that are likely your organization has, just because they're the biggest, right? So that's kind of the portion to extract and then write. I have another question from Justin about the triggering on the AI for invoices around multiple page documents, identify multiple invoices for PDF or distinguish an invoice and timesheet. Let's just digest this a little bit, make sure I understand the question. So yeah, so if you have an invoice, then you want to extract a single page invoice, for example, that has multiple lines, and you want to add those multiple lines as rows inside of your sheet. We can do this. So for example, if I wanted to take application integration, AI, ML, BI, etc., and create unique rows for those inside of my Smartsheet sheet, that can be configured, right? Basically, the trigger event's the same whenever an attachment is uploaded. It's going to read the document, and then we basically just tell it within the business flow to look for items to create I think technically it's called an array, but we are grouping in all of these rows, and then we process each one of those rows from the document as a row to be updated inside the sheet. So again, we can do a one-to-one where one attachment is one row, or if we need to extract multiple rows for one attachment, for a great scenario is line item details, whether it's a quote, a PO, or a shipment log, that can be extracted within that flow and moved through. So great question. Slightly different workflow, but yeah. Excuse me, a question from Daniel Ponce. I'm actually going to stop sharing. I'm going to kind of move over to the open page because we're kind of segmenting into the Q&A portion. So bear with me again as I switch gears. Great questions now, actually. So yeah, let me model this out. I get too excited about these sometimes. Just want to hop right in. So appreciate your patience there. All right. So of course, for those that are using the Q&A, you're probably noticing is the Q&A button kind of up at the top. If you ask that question, we're seeing these now kind of moderating. If you'd prefer to have a quick one-on-one with us afterwards or details, you can scan this QR code. It'll bring you to kind of an event page. But you got us here and now, so we're going to try and answer as many questions as we can within this session. So feel free to go wild. Any creative scenario that you want, we'll kind of address those here. So Daniel asks, does the AI data extraction work similar to OCR and read data left or right? Yes. It's a combination of AI and OCR if we're getting super technical, at least within the realms of Microsoft's AI builder. So you pick the type of extraction that you want with the AI builder. If you're doing document extraction, or if you're doing content summary, or if you're interpreting images. So there's a couple of engines within that AI that you pick that can work better than some for others. So it's really just configuring it to meet the best needs for your application, but there's a couple of variations that can be applied. I think there was another question one of the team members answered, and this goes both way for either generating documents or extracting information. So if I'm creating a PDF kind of from the first scenario we had, and my data inside Smartsheet changes, and I want to regenerate that, that can be configured to say only when you check the box to say rerun, it can run it, or it can be configured to be automatic where it senses anytime data changes in the sheet, reprocess the document so you're live and updated. And then for the AI portion, that can be the same thing. So if it's recognizing a new attachment, if that wants to be reprocessed automatically, that can be configured so that it's saying anytime a new attachment is uploaded, a new version of the file has been provided, rerun that AI flow to begin again. So great question. A couple more have come in from Christina. What if the invoices are different? Great question. I don't have a good sample, at least within this one. But when you're training the AI engine, I'm going to broaden it and say it doesn't have to be invoiced, right? It can be any Word template that you're receiving or any file that you're receiving. But if I have 100 different vendors and they all have their different formats, the invoice numbers in the top right corner, it's not giving me a subtotal or a total due at the bottom, or their billing context is different. What is kind of presented during the configuration of that model is kind of a highlight to say, I am looking for these specific areas, and you create a learned collection for those vendors or those templates. And so that's part of the education or the training of the engine to make sure it's identifying those records. A lot of these tools, especially the Smartsheet, starts with a library provided by Microsoft of hundreds of thousands of invoices. So you're getting a very large head start into identifying these types of documents to parse through. But AI is great. It's not perfect, and that's why you have to train it. So if there are templates that don't quite fit, you find it's missing some information in from the extraction, you can easily go back into the workflow and then say, I need to look for this explicit field in this spot, and you literally highlight it, very similar to what you do as a proof inside Smartsheet to identify that field and then map it from there. So it is dynamic to go. Great question, Christina. Question from Aaron, can the automation be set to automatically run a report? Yes. So again, a lot of the scenarios that I've had are doing on a user-based trigger, but this can be done weekly, it could be monthly. So for your application, at least within fleet management, if you want to run a history of all maintenance transactions, or maybe it's fuel ups or daily vehicle inspections that you need to send to a third party, or Maybe it's even to your insurance provider. I know if you provide proof for vehicle or fleet inspections on a specific cadence or have that proof, a lot of those insurance companies will actually provide you with a discount because you're performing that preventative maintenance and inspection in there. So yeah, these are fully configurable. So whatever application you need, again, the combination of Smartsheet as your user interface and an AI or automation engine in the back end expands that scope and the possibilities for you from there. Great question. Michael has a question for clarity. So Microsoft Automate replace work in place of the Smartsheet document generation. So as a maybe a delineator, at least for the document generation, Smartsheet's doc generation is a good tool. It's good for, I'd say, simple documents where you're just kind of mapping information in, and if you don't really care about the visual aesthetics of it, the Smartsheet automation is a great tool, right? But it's going to work for one workflow or one sheet as you set up explicitly. If you are leveraging additional tools from Smartsheet, like if you have Control Center and you want to create documents at scale for every project, maybe you're provisioning, or every template is supposed to have a doc gen, or if you want to make that template more visually aesthetic, add in different colors or formatting or font sizes, or have dynamic fields that grow and shrink based on your data, the Smartsheet doc automation does not provide that because it's just a map the field to a fillable PDF field. This automation one is actually creating the document dynamically. And so it will run and it'll change the actual file to meet your business needs. So both are good. They have different applications kind of within there. A lot of times we see the journey is you might start with a Smartsheet automation, and then when you hit the upper limits and you need something more, you can transition into maybe the advanced automation flow where you're looking at leveraging Power Automate or something else to build. All right, lots of questions. This is great. From Gutum, do you integrate Power Automate or other automation tools with Smartsheet that we showed? So, as Optimum, again, we're IT consultants. We do Smartsheet as a platinum partner, but we touch other techs. So with that comes the experience to use other software tools. So if there's one specifically that you have or to the broader group the organization prefers or has a requirement to go into, it's highly likely it can be done. If your IT team can't do it because they're too busy or they don't find the value, that's where you could certainly kind of reach out, and we'd be happy to kind of facilitate or at least show you what that path forward might be. Lisa, I think one of our team members has answered this question. Power Automate, again, that's our demo focus from here, but there are other automation tools you can use like GPT to process those. There's a whole bunch out there nowadays and counting. Again, I think the broader question for this is maybe ask questions within your organizations. What tools do I have available to me? And if you don't know what's available, hopefully you've learned a little bit from this session what can be done with your stack. And if you're curious about more, we can help identify maybe some tools that you may have access to that you don't have to pay for, more seats or license. And it's just how do I connect those bricks together? Justin's got another question for Power Automate. Can you submit historical invoices? Yes. Yeah. So you can start with a default library, but if you've got 10,000 invoices from your organization that you want to kind of feed in, you can absolutely do so. The more, the better. It usually only needs 5 to get up to like 85% proficiency. So the more you can get at a higher realm within that. Of course, the more consistent templates, the easier they are. Question around, I think my initial conversation around DocuSign versus like Adobe Sign or others. So Christine's asking that they use the DocuSign integration, but it doesn't write back to Smartsheet when they receive. So that's going to be kind of maybe some values to look at with these advanced automations is native functions like the Smartsheet DocuSign integration. You're kind of stuck with what Smartsheet at least has built out with that connector. So you can send documents for review, you can see only specific fields to be mapped back in. But if you want more, that's where you can leverage tools again like Power Automate or another integration service to customize or write back additional field information that's accessible. So if you hit a wall in what's available from Smartsheet, that doesn't mean you're stuck there, right? There may be another path forward. Again, I don't want to add or bloat software tech to any of your guys' organizations, so it's likely there's something that exists. We can identify where those out from there. Renee asks, you can create a PDF that requires a DocuSign for different people. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably going to be, it's going to be a combination from your Smartsheet information. You may have two approver columns. And then in a DocuSign or even Adobe Sign workflow, you basically map approver one to this segment within the review package and another contact to the review, and you set up a sequence from one document to the next. So it just needs to be configured. Multi-step approvals, I would say, are probably a little bit on the intermediate to advanced side, just because there's a little bit more business logic, like what happens when someone declines it, does it restart the process? But the applications have the ability to do those. Nikki is asking around AI with grants and pulling in keywords to Smartsheet. So yeah, something we didn't speak about, at least in this like hyper specifically, is contextual AI, which you may notice inside of the Smartsheet's native application that it has some AI functions. But if you want to read maybe in the realm of grant management, you've got a bunch of applicants that are applying for funding, and they have to give you their business case or their summary of the goals that they're meeting. I, for one, am not great at giving a nice, concise information for an attribute, so I might get verbal spaghetti for the request in here, and maybe you, as the grantor who's trying to manage and distribute which those funds go to, just needs a succinct element. Or maybe you're running a sales pipeline and you want to get maybe specific terms or key highlights from an element. Again, this is beyond what we had in the demo today, but I can read when a new form is submitted and I get that survey response or that long-term paragraph. I can read the context of that chat to say, maybe as a grantor, I need to identify the business case, the department, and the benefits, the beneficiaries for the funding from this long paragraph text. And so from one giant block of text, I can parse that out into 3 or 5 specific categories, which could be columns in my sheet that help me kind of process and analyze that data more effectively. So that's kind of pulling in those keywords from block text, or it could be from a file, right, within there. So couple of scenarios within that. All right. We're a few minutes past time, so I don't want to take too much from folks' lunches here and there. Great questions, great feedback. Hopefully this was a valuable session for y'all. We're, again, happy to kind of share. We'll be sharing a recording of this session to the broader group. If you have any questions or would like to reach out to us for more details or to look at your flows or your business's application specifically, feel free to book a session with us. We'll be in touch for any additional notes. Yeah, any scenarios that pop in, happy to assist. Again, want to thank you so much for your time today. This was a short but sweet one. There'll be more sessions like this in the forward. You've given us some great ideas for things to develop more, so we want to keep this motion going. We're creating content for you that's more specific. But thank you, everyone, for your time today, and we'll keep in touch. Have a great day, everyone.